Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Meg DeForest, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Meg, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. I was saying before we started recording, I hope that we can get past this thunderstorm stage that we're constantly in right now. I'd like some sun.
Yeah, I think everybody would. I think everybody's kind of tired of seeing whether or not White Mud's flooding or other areas of the city. So, yeah, fingers crossed that when you're listening to this, we are through the terrible thunderstorms we've been having. But today's episode is really interesting because as Meg, we were chatting here before we hit record that so much stuff is going on right now in the world of EPL, not only just obviously in the world of EPL, but just everything in general. And it seems like a lot of our stuff is really changing day by day, hour by hour. And it's been absolutely nuts. And, even with our positions, like I've been working from home the last 4 months, and so have you, Meg. And we were talking about sounds like you might be going, I'm pretty sure, back to a branch here over the next few weeks. But it's been really interesting.
Yeah, it's been sort of like I don't know what my job is 2 weeks from now, but I don't think anybody does. So it's been a learning curve, and I think we're all just being flexible.
Yeah, exactly. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We have joining us once again on the show is Edmonton Public Library's Chief Executive Officer, Pilar Martinez. Pilar, how are you today?
Very well, Bryce and Meg. Thank you so much for having me.
When we have staff on the show who kind of reoccur a frequent amount of times, we start calling them friends of the show. So this is like your third appearance on Overdue Finds. So you are officially a friend of Overdue Finds now.
As if she wasn't a friend before.
Yeah,
Bryce.
you weren't
Come
before.
on.
You weren't before, but now you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Pilar, we're so happy to have you on today because today's episode, we are talking about all the changes that have been happening. And probably most exciting with all of those changes is kind of like the reopening of EPL. It's been a long 4 months for absolutely everybody. And for those listeners today and customers as well, I know that you've also been eagerly waiting for our branches to open back up. So Meg and I have some questions for Pilar today and I really think the listeners are going to enjoy kind of getting some information on the details about how branches are opening and some of the details around all that news. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so how long ago did the discussion start around reopening? Was it sort of shortly after we closed, or was there really not enough information yet to kind of put together a plan at that point?
Interestingly, we have been thinking about opening even before we closed, and considering our plans, but began planning in earnest, immediately after we closed, speculating when we might open, what that date might be. And so it's been in the works for quite a number of months. And the senior leadership team has, as we've gotten more information from the provincial government, from the City of Edmonton, we keep adding more details and are able to better kind of nail down a specific date.
I have to ask, were you in contact with any other library systems to see how and when they were reopening? If so, like kind of what did some of those discussions look like?
I was actually, as of 2 weeks ago, the chair of the Canadian Urban Libraries Council, which is an organization that supports large urban public libraries across Canada, serving populations of over 100,000. So we were meeting on a weekly basis by Zoom, and COVID was the topic of conversation. So whether it was how we were addressing the temporary closures, and challenges with temporarily laying off staff, challenges with curb and other things. And then as the relaunching across the country began to occur and be top of mind, that's when we all began talking about reopening. So a lot of sharing, and Culk created this fabulous toolkit to support COVID and the relaunch and re-envisioning our services, so which I've used on numerous occasions, and I know our staff have as well. So there's been a lot of collaboration, and not only nationally, but provincially. So our municipal affairs is where public libraries lie, and the Public Library Services Branch, which is nested in municipal affairs, has also held bi-weekly meetings to talk about, issues and support that could be provided by the province. So there's been a lot of conversation and collaboration. I think that has helped us develop our own plans.
I think there's so much that goes into it people don't realize. So what's one thing that you would say to customers who might be a bit nervous about coming back into branches?
I think we've said all along, Meg and Bryce, that, and we've said it and we've lived it, that the safety and health of our staff and customers are the number one priority. And I think we're taking a really cautious and conservative approach to relaunching. Some libraries have just opened wide. We've started with curbside, so pickup of holds outside of our locations and service points, then gradually had, pickup of holds and very minimal entry into the space. So, and then on August 4th, we will open up our spaces. So I think that's helped us really socialize the new world, the new experience. So that I think has been helpful. And we, of course, are implementing all of the public health guidelines, the Alberta Health Guidelines, and with PPE and hand sanitizer. So I think we have a number of health guidelines that are, of course, dictating how we approach it. We have hazard assessments that are being completed by our safety consultant. So we, I think, are being very, very mindful of the expectations. And I think customers need to do what's comfortable for them. We have all different comfort levels, but I think the recent decision by the city administration around face coverings, I think, too, will lend some confidence to Edmontonians that we are taking this very seriously. We are going to, public library is going to align ourselves with this approach. So I think that too will lend some confidence. And we know that that's not the only way to reduce the virus, but with the physical distancing in place, the hand washing, staying home when you're sick, wearing a face covering when you're not able to physically distance, all of those things will help us keep this under control and reduce the spread.
Pretty much like not even 12 hours ago, city council kind of made that decision to basically say that, on public transit and in city facilities that, face masks are mandatory now, which personally I think is a great decision. But, I have to ask because, some of the branches have been kind of open up here over the last few weeks and just mostly for holds pickups. But what does that library experience and I guess what services will be available when all the branches reopen on August 4th?
Yeah, that is, I'm sure, the top of many people's minds, Bryce and Meg. And I think it's exciting because now customers will be able to actually browse the shelves and enter our space entirely. Of course, there will be capacity limits. We're adhering to the 1 person per 10 square meters guideline. So that means that we won't be able to have the full capacity that we normally do. So that will be a change. I think we'll also be offering access to our public computers, and we know that's a huge need in our city that with students having to return Chromebooks now that the schools are sort of closed for the summer, and that not everybody in our community has access to the digital resources they need. So we're looking forward to providing that. We'll have more in-person reference and information questions that can be asked. So that will be those will be the big differences I think that people will notice, that it's we're extending what we've been able to do over this last phase. So it's exciting. We will not be doing some of the things that people were accustomed to, that in-person programs yet. I think it's too complicated and with the physical distancing requirements. However, we are expanding enough services I think that people will be quite delighted.
I know the online baby lap time has been an absolute huge monster hit for us over the last 4 months. So I'm sure those parents are very appreciative that we'll be continuing with that.
Definitely. I think another thing that's changing, obviously, is the elimination of fines. And as someone who works with the community directly, I don't think I can say how excited I am about this. But not everyone, I think, listening may know why this was needed and why now maybe was the time to make this change.
I think this is what we've wanted to do this for a number of years, probably decades. And I think the membership fee elimination was sort of the first segue into this next natural decision. And I think we've seen over the last couple of years a really explosion in the number of public libraries, particularly in the United States. I would say the vast majority have gone fine-free. And I think that enabled us to see the data of the results of those decisions. And I think that we know that the overdue fees disproportionately affect those who are socially vulnerable, who live in more economically disadvantaged communities. So that data we had. And then receiving or researching data to confirm that there was no impact on returns. In fact, those libraries that had eliminated fees have found that their memberships have increased, the usage has increased, and the overall goodwill towards the libraries has really expanded. So I think our concerns about not having the material were alleviated by this research. So I'm just so pleased that the board decided to do this. And given that we are facing this health crisis, the timing really seemed helpful to reduce the cash handling and really give the community a gift of fine-free. There's still the incentive to return materials. It's not entirely alleviated. However, this is a big initiative, and we're so delighted. And I'm glad you're happy too, as somebody who is a community librarian who is really having those difficult conversations sometimes.
Obviously, me being in marketing and communications, I've seen some comments and stuff online just because it's part of my job. That I know one of the main questions that has come up, in regards to removing those late fees, is that there's definitely some concern regarding hold times.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess, was there any concern, like when you guys are when everybody's taking a look at removing late fees, does that come up in the discussion? And if so, what was some of the research, or what did you guys decide on there?
So I think, Bryce, as you mentioned, with any change, there's going to be concerns expressed. And I think I mentioned the research that we had undertaken when we made this decision, when we proposed this decision to the board, and the holds weight was a significant factor. We wanted to ensure that this was not what was occurring to those libraries that had implemented fine-free. And in fact, they have found that this has not been the case. And EPL has always been committed to reducing the wait times for people who have placed holds. We know that when you place a hold, you want it, and you want it as quickly as possible. So our holds ratio, which is basically we maintain a 5-to-1 hold copy ratio. So that means for every we have one copy for every 5 holds. So that's excellent in comparison to other public libraries. And even though we've eliminated fines, it does not mean that we're going to be having people to wait. Even though we're eliminating fines, it doesn't mean that people are going to have to wait longer for holds. We still will, if people haven't returned an item and hold it longer, we will still be billing for what we call lost material. So there still will be an incentive. And in between that, we will be enhancing our notice periods to remind people to return things. Overall, though, the experience that other public libraries have had do not demonstrate that this has been an issue. So I think we're in good hands. And of course, we'll be monitoring this and evaluating. We may have to do something different in terms of notice periods or expediting the lost notices.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be relieved to hear that. I know I've had discussions with friends or other people too, and they were like, "Oh, I'm like 113th on this item," and I said, like, I know it looks bad, but I've explained the kind of 5-to-1 hold ratio, and I've said, believe it or not, it will actually go a lot quicker than
I know.
than you think.
We don't want people to think that's going to be taking forever.
No.
Yeah. First opened our first branch, the Strathcona branch. We had a library messenger who would actually go to door and remind people to return their library materials.
I just picture somebody coming in the door and being like, is that copy of Romeo and Juliet I see on the table over there? I'm right here. If you want, I can take it back for you.
Yeah.
So quick roundtable questions. Pilar, We know that the renovated Stanley A. Milner Library will be opening sooner than later, but what's the one thing that you can't wait for people to see when they arrive for the first time?
That is a really interesting question. And I think, you know what? I am going to not share that. I would like to keep people in suspense since we're getting closer to that day, in September. So I want to keep customers in suspense. And I think they will be I think people will be so surprised in general at what this transformation looks like and the experience of this transformed, revitalized Milner Library that I'm going to leave people hanging.
The suspense.
Well, I won't say my answer, but I will say this as a teaser, as somebody who kind of before the pandemic had been working out of there, and I was actually just in the office yesterday. I really think just from the entryway, I think people are going to be wowed as soon as they step foot. So personally, I can't wait just to see people's faces when they walk in for the first time. All right, so Pilar, if you were going to create a virtual program, what would you want to create one on? We chatted earlier, like we've been doing a lot of online programming here the last few months, especially like our baby lap time. Meg, you've been doing some really fun stuff too with our life skills classes.
Yeah.
So, Pilar, if you could create one, what would it be?
Oh, I'm so thrilled with the way our customers have embraced our virtual programming. And I think it's so interesting. I think that's one of the silver linings in this pandemic, that there are some programs that are doing much better virtually, right? So I'm really excited about this, and so how we can continue some of these programs as we get to more sort of normal library services. I have a couple of ideas. I wondered about doing something on the amazing trail system in our city. You could have a moving virtual program around the bike trails, the best bike trails in our city, or something like that. I think would be really interesting. I think there are a lot of people making use of our bike trails and our river valley trails, given we're sort of holed up, so to speak, in Edmonton and not traveling about. So I think that would be a fantastic one. I also, at the same time, wonder about something around making the best summer, like a mixology course with best summer cocktails. I think that would be kind of fun.
That would be really popular. I'm going to go out on a limb and say anything alcohol related would be really popular.
Anything that gets that summer feeling right now, I
Yeah.
think.
Meg, how about you? Like, I know you've done some programs and you actually have a really fun one coming up. I won't tease it unless you want to, but
We can tease it. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, my next sort of new virtual program is how to create a character for a Dungeons and Dragons game. So I think a lot of people have seen it from Stranger Things or maybe watching podcasts or things like Critical Role. And I've actually been playing D&D for about, I'm going to make myself sound old here, but 20 years. So it's sort of exciting to me to see it be kind of adopted by the general public, but it can be a bit daunting for new players to sort of know where do you start. It's so wide open compared to a board game or something. And so I'm really excited to sort of sit down with some people virtually and help them to create characters to get them started on that gaming kind of platform.
Personally, I've only played Dungeons and Dragons a few times, and that's when I think I was in like elementary school. But I'm already going to be signing up for that course because it's something that I've got a few other friends who are involved in it, and I haven't joined them. But yeah, it's something I'm looking forward to picking up myself. One virtual program I would love to do would be something on fantasy sports. I've chatted in the past about made fantasy baseball and hockey leagues. It's something really fun to do, very similar to D&D, not quite as involved. We're not making our own characters, but there's stats involved and you can trade with other player or other teams, and yeah, it's really fun. So Pilar, I've heard from a lot of people that they're reading less or doing different kinds of things since the pandemic started. Have you found yourself drawn to different books or media more than usual?
Yeah, that makes me think, Bryce. I think initially, in March and April, I was pretty glued to the television, more, lots of Netflix or Crave shows or series. And I think that is less, could be because of the weather, even though we've had rain, there still is an opportunity to get outside. So that could be the change, the shift in there. Still reading, and I am listening to podcasts because I am outside. If I'm biking, cycling, or running, I find listening to podcasts a really lovely way to make the time go by more quickly, especially when I'm running. So there's a series by Sam Harris a podcast that I really like, and of course, our own podcast is something on my list as well. So,
well, if future Pilar is listening to this as she's jogging, keep going. You can do it.
You will not believe how helpful that will be to me. Here, do
it. Meg, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely one of those people who maybe went back to some comfort reads and sort of rewatching television shows, maybe more than new stuff. I think I've heard from a lot of people that familiarity has been really nice in a world where maybe you don't know what's happening in your real life from day to day, that there might be something nice about visiting a virtual world where you know what's coming.
Yeah. I actually just mentioned this myself on the last episode of our podcast. It's funny because at the beginning I found myself reading more often, but then kind of started to get a little bit lazy and playing a lot more online video games with friends here over the last few months. But in my defense, it's been a great way to kind of stay connected to everybody, and we chat every night as we shoot some bad guys. So that's all fun. And final question, and probably the most important one, Pilar, cloth face mask or disposable one? What's your preference?
I think I use both. I have my cloth mask, but I have a little stash of disposables in my purse just in case I've forgotten it. So I tend to use my cloth mask more. I have both on hand though, just in case. Yeah. And I like the environmental, maybe that's just I just, the fact that you can reuse something is appealing. How about you?
Me personally, I prefer the cloth one. It's funny, I don't have any disposable ones. I know you can get them at drive-throughs and everything, but I just like being able to kind of wear it once and then I can wash it and kind of use it all over again. Meg, how about you?
Same as you, Bryce. I have cloth ones. I actually had to break out my old sewing machine, so I've been sewing my own for myself and my husband. So yeah, so that's been kind of my crafting challenge. Is
you might have to share, or I'd buy some off you.
There you go. Yeah, it's been very fun because lots of people are sharing different patterns online. So it's actually kind of this little community of people sharing what works and what fits different faces and how to adjust it. And so yeah, that's what I've been doing.
You can do some EPL branded ones,
Totally, yeah. Get the colors. It would be great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Pilar. Is there anything that you would like to share before we wrap up today?
Just to thank you both so much. I'm just thrilled to be part of the conversation. Really appreciate you including me.
We had just so much fun having you. So, we really hope that you listeners have enjoyed this episode as much as we have making it. So if you haven't yet, we do encourage you to hit that subscribe button so you automatically get new episodes. And please do leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And even more importantly, tell a friend about the show.
Yeah, and of course, as we mention all the time, we would love to hear from our listeners. So you can reach us on Facebook or on Twitter at epl.ca or email us at podcast@epl.ca. You can also join the conversation with us on Twitter by using the hashtag EPL Overdue Finds. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.